Football.
Good evening. I will call to order Wilsonville City Council meeting for, what are we, November 19th, 2018 at 7:12 p.m. and request a roll call.
Counselor Stevens? Here. Council President Starr?
Here.
Counselor Ackerval? Here. Counselor Lehan?
Here.
Mayor Knapp?
Here. Thank you. Would the audience please rise and join us in a pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Council, I'd be open to a motion on order of agenda.
Your Honor, I move that we approve the order of agenda.
Second.
Moved and second, we approve order of agenda. Copies are available on the counter at the side of the room. If anyone that doesn't have one would like to see it, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes 5-0. First item up this evening is our communications item, wherein we are pleased to have some representatives from the Korean War Veterans Association come to join us.
Good evening, Mayor Knapp, members of City Council. I'm Mark Ottened, Public and Government Affairs Director. Tonight, we do have for a presentation by the Korean War Veterans Association, Chuck Lasardi, past president, and Bob Cassidy, the current president of the KWVA Oregon Trail chapter. And without further ado, they're here to present some information and good wishes to the council and city staff.
Thank you, Mark. You'll have to excuse my voice. I'm a little on the gravelly side here this evening. But good evening, Mayor Knapp, council members. I want to thank you very much for providing the time for us to make these presentations. We have two items that we would like to make a presentation to both the Parks and Rec and to the city itself. And shall I go ahead with? My name is Chuck Lasardi. I'm past president of the Korean War Veterans Association, Oregon Trail chapter. Bob Cassidy, our president, current president of our chapter, is here. And he and I are here this evening to make a presentation of a plaque to the Parks and Rec Department, thanking them for the work that they do to maintain the Oregon Korean War Memorial here in Wilsonville's Town Center Park. The memorial was conceived by two of our chapter members in '95. Our chapter members voted to take up the challenge, and with the help of many, including the Korean community, the general public, and the city of Wilsonville, the memorial became a reality and was dedicated in the year 2000. Since that time, we've held many programs at the memorial. And the Parks and Rec personnel always assured that the grounds and the memorial were always in beautiful condition. One aspect that we noted, our members brought to our attention, was that no matter the day, Brian Stevenson was always personally ready to meet our needs and to make those events a success. His support is in keeping with the support that the city of Wilsonville, our memorial's host, has provided since its inception. Our Korean War veterans all want to thank you for that service that you have provided in that sense. With that being said, we would like to present a plaque to Parks and Rec Department with a kind of a special note to Brian for his services. We also have a contribution that our president, Brian Cassidy, will be presenting. I think we'd like to present that to the mayor. and that will be a contribution funds to continue the maintenance of the memorial in support of that. Bob?
Thank you, Chuck. I would like to thank the city also for the great cooperation that we've had. I've been the president for 4 years, and everything always goes smoothly, from setting up like Brian does to speakers that come. When I stand up in front of that at the podium with the events that we have, I look out over the venue and I get a really warm spot in my heart for that, because it's just, what we are doing is honoring 298 Oregonian, mostly 18-year-olds, who are on our plaque on the wall. And I feel that if they could speak, they would say, this is a good deal. The Korean War, probably most of you weren't born when the Korean, oh God, Chuck.
He does get a bit emotional.
The Korean War took place in Korea, just for, if anybody. When we came back, the word apathy was the current word for Korean War veterans. We came back, when I came back into San Francisco, I expected what you used to see in the old World War II movies, you know, guys getting together with their wives, their kids, their girlfriends, and all that. Well, we pulled in, and there were 6 Red Cross ladies making coffee and giving us coffee. God bless them for being there, but apathy was the byword, apathy. I never heard until probably 50 years later anybody say, thank you for your service. We never heard anything. It was, and in all fairness to the citizens of the U.S., they had just been through a World War II, and they didn't want to hear about another war. So the memorial, once again, as Chuck has said and I say, it's just a great experience. Just a great experience. And I didn't ever get to meet a group of Koreans like we have with us in the monument. And I was blown away by what they do. They can't stop thanking us. The war was over 65 years ago, and when you see them, they still thank you, thank you, thank you. But anyway, and one of the things that they do is every time you meet them, they bow. And I think that it'd be a good thing for me to bow to you because of the great job that you do with our memorial. So I'll do that. Thank you very much. Now we have the check. Tim, we have a check.
We will be making that presentation over here.
Oh, over here?
Yep.
I'm the oldest of the two. And I need
Doing great.
a lot of help.
Well, thank you, Bob. And that, Bob says it well in the sense that there are many emotions and many thoughts and many statements that we could make in thanks to the city of Wilsonville for the hosting job that it does for this memorial. Councilor Leon, We've worked with you in the past. We've had each and every one of you who has spoken at one or more of our events. We appreciate that. And I think the fact that the city has and does take such a tremendous interest and great care in that memorial leaves us with the thought that, hey, we're ready to look at it from any perspective we want in the future, even if it's up there, hopefully, and know it's in good hands. Thank you.
Well, on behalf of the citizens of Wilsonville, I want to thank you folks as representatives of our servicemen that fought in Korea and managed to make a difference for the lives of the entire continent of Korea, the people that are there, especially the South Koreans that struggled so mightily without until they got help from the outside. So you've all made a difference for many people. So thank you for your efforts also. I think it's a great partnership, and I think that the history of Korea is not yet all written, and we'll be paying careful attention as we go forward and hope for the best there. I would second your accolades to our parks folks that do an outstanding job of maintaining that facility. Would like to do a couple different sessions here, so maybe you could present the plaque to start with, and we would be pleased to take a couple pictures of that.
Oh, well, if they're up and moving, we can save it.
Shall we move over this one?
Okay.
Can we do it?
I used to be a great athlete.
Well, Bob used to be a great athlete, but here's the difference. He was a Marine. Marines just use their people up so badly, and in old age, there isn't a lot to go. But if you're Army, it's different. I got it.
Forgot to write the check.
Mark, how would you got it? Stage. What I would like to do is present this plaque to the Parks and Rec Department. It says Oregon Trail Chapter of the Korean War Veterans Memorial, 2000 to 2018. In sincere appreciation and thanks, we present this award to Brian Stevenson and the Park and Rec Department team in Wilsonville for the outstanding care they provide to maintain the beauty and dignity of the Oregon Korean War Memorial in Wilsonville's Town Center Park. And I would like to send that to all of you.
Happy birthday.
I would be remiss if I did not point out that Todd Blankenship is our park supervisor. So Todd does a great job maintaining that park, and Roger Mueller is one of his guys who takes great pride in that. So, you know, I'm humbled to receive this, but Todd and the rest of the team, Mike and Erica, definitely deserve it as much credit, if not more, than I do. So, thank you.
We tried to make that plaque to be all-inclusive, but as I pointed out, one of the things that we find is that each program that we have is always on a day that has to take up somebody's time. That's important for them to be with the family. And Brian's being there and his cheerful attitude while he is there is very much appreciated. And he is one heck of a good representative, as is the Parks Department for the city of Wilson.
Your plaque is perfectly stated.
Thank you.
Brian does a great job.
I appreciate that.
Okay, Jim, we would like to present a check to you, and our suggestion is that you use it for some sort of maintenance of our memorial. And this is the check, and I signed it in, well, take it anyway.
Thank you.
Good.
That's okay.
The next item of business that we have is our citizens input and community announcements section, which is an opportunity for visitors to address council on items not on the agenda. Also a time to address items that are on the agenda but not scheduled for public hearing. Staff and council will make every effort to respond to questions raised during citizens input before tonight's meeting ends or as soon as we can thereafter. Please limit your comments to just a couple, 3 minutes if you would. I've not received any speaker cards at this point. Is there any member of the public that would like to speak under citizens input? And I'm seeing none at this point, so I think I will move on then into mayor's business. The first item of business is that an annual observation that happens as the holiday season comes forward is upon us, and that is what has become known as Small Business Saturday. We have many small businesses in town, and our shopkeepers and small business owners are a significant part of our community and an important component of our overall economic operation, as well as being major parts of our community in other ways, as those people that own and operate those businesses are frequently active in our schools and our communities, our churches, many different ways. So we have supported Small Business Saturday, and I have a proclamation to read on that topic. Whereas the government of Wilsonville, Oregon celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. According to the United States Small Business Administration, there are currently 30.2 million small businesses in the United States, and they represent 99.7% of all the businesses with employees in the United States. They are responsible for 65.9% of new jobs created between 2000 and 2017. Whereas small businesses employ 47.5% of the employees in the private sector in the United States. And whereas 90% of consumers in the United States say Small Business Saturday has a positive impact on their community. And whereas some 89% of consumers who are aware of Small Business Saturday said the day encourages them to shop small all year long. Whereas 73% of consumers who reportedly shop small at independently owned retailers and restaurants on Small Business Saturday did so with friends or family. Whereas the most reported reason for consumers aware of the day to shop and dine at small independently owned businesses was to support their community. Some 64% said that. And whereas Wilsonville, Oregon supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our community, and whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday, now therefore I, Tim Knapp, as mayor of Wilsonville, do hereby proclaim November 24, 2018 as Small Business Saturday, and urge residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. Signed this 19th day of November. So that is our proclamation, and I do urge people to recognize and do business with our small businesses in our community. They are an important part of what makes our town what it is. I have a report on what's been happening. I was pleased to attend a chamber event at our Smart Operations facility this last week, I guess it was, and had a good turnout. I don't know how many people. There must have been 40 people, 50 people there, which was great. And our Smart Operations folks, with Dwight taking the lead, was able to tell the story of how SMART came to be and what function it fulfills within the community and why it's important in a lot of ways, and remind people of that, or maybe make them familiar if they were not. Also attended a event at Swire Coca-Cola bottling plant. They have reached a long-term arrangement on the vacant property to the south of where they have been located, and moved their employees that were formerly located in Tigard down to the operation here. So there are now some 630, 40, 50 employees, something like that, operating out of Wilsonville. So it is quite a sizable operation, and they are another business that is contributing to our community. So I was pleased to do that. I attended the Clackamas County Business Alliance Forum, where they had John Topanga from Eco Northwest doing a sort of an analysis and presentation on the economics of the greater Portland region. He was a very sharp, knowledgeable person who I think would be well worth hearing if you have the opportunity, talking about the economy, talking about the housing crisis, what Eco Northwest's take on the whole situation is. They had data that I'd not seen before, talking about how many households are being formed within our region by county, and how many physical housing units are being developed at the same time. And the housing units being developed are different percentages, but always less than 100% of the households being formed. So Clackamas County, for instance, their analysis said had formed about 78, had built about 78 houses for every 100 new households that had been formed, which then leaves the rest without a house. And so that kind of data analysis is driving a lot of what they were talking about. So good information, and I'm sure we could have more about it if the council were so inclined and found the time to do that. Attended the Metropolitan Mayors Consortium meeting, doing a lot of kind of regular sort of administrative work to plan for the new year. Talking about the legislative agenda that the mayors are going to support for the coming year has probably been the biggest conversation. Attended the Greater Portland Inc. Small Cities Consortium meeting that day also, and also then on a different day attended the annual Board of Directors retreat. I've thrown my name in the hat to be the representative of the Small Cities Consortium to the Board of Directors of Greater Portland Inc. With the retirement of Mayor Lou Ogden from Tualatin at the end of the year. So I think that likely will happen, but I don't have a final word on that. Greater Portland Inc. managed to bring about 600 full-time jobs to the Portland region in the last calendar year. They're having a hard time with financing. They don't get dedicated funding from anybody except business members, and that's a tough road. You have an interesting argument that those 600 jobs are now people working in our economy and paying income taxes, and so the state benefits and the county's benefit on property taxes. There might be some way that we could figure out how a little bit of those new cash flows could be redirected back at the group that is trying to recruit more and more businesses. So I don't know how that would work, but that might be one of the directions that they are investigating. At JPACT, Joint Policy Advisory Committee on Transportation, the main item of business last week was to sign off on the preferred alternative for the Southwest Light Corridor Rail route through from downtown Portland out to Bridgeport Village. That project is moving along and will likely be a major focus of a proposed 2020 ballot measure that Metro and TriMet are jointly working on bringing forward for the 2020 ballot to try to provide funding to get that project moving. Their estimate is that by the time that opens, which is estimated to be 2027, that they could carry 43,000 rides a day on that line. If those people are on light rail, they won't be on I-5, and so that is a significant interest to people that are stuck in I-5 traffic. So we shall see how that goes. Upcoming next week, I believe, the Metropolitan Mayors Consortium Committee on Metro and Transportation has secured a meeting with TriMet Executive Doug Kelsey to come talk to the Mayors Committee about what the TriMet vision is about function for transportation in coming, long range, talking about, 20, 30, 40 years out. How's that going to work? A lot of this discussion has been generated by the tolling proposals that the legislature has directed ODOT to study, which seem to be oriented toward getting some people not to use the freeway. The question is, if you're not using the freeway, how do you get to work? How do you get to school? How do you get home? Do you really have alternatives that you're able to access and get you from where you are to where you need to be? And that whole dialogue is something the metropolitan mayors are kind of pushing forward, even though it's an uncomfortable dialogue for some people in the region about questioning whether the plans they've been working on the last 20 years are going to be adequate to the job that they need to fulfill. So we're trying to balance that with the need that many mayors are voicing, that we need to have more robust plans than currently may be on the books. So that is an interesting dialogue to have. And I will stop talking and let the councilor report. Councilor President Starr.
Well, I don't have anything to report, but just seeing the gentleman here just recently, Korean War vets, Chuck and Bob. It's too bad that they didn't hear it, but they're gone now. But I still want to say thank you for your service, because it's pretty amazing what they did. I had a chance to go back east several weekends ago and visit my father-in-law, who has Alzheimer's, but he was a Korean War vet. He's 85 now. So just, I have a lot of respect for those gentlemen and everything that they went through. So that's my comments.
Thank you. Councilor Stevens.
Thank you. I am the liaison for the library board, and the board does not hold a meeting in November. The next meeting, so I have nothing to report on that. They will be meeting on December 5th, which coincides with the next French Prairie Task Force meeting. The bridge, I'm the alternate on that for Councilor Lehan, so if she can attend, I have to make a decision between two different meetings on the same night. So I guess I'll get together with you and talk with you about whether or not you can attend that meeting. So I'll report back on what happens at the library board meeting at the follow-up, okay? And I'll do a community event. Of course, we're closed Thursday and Friday. City offices are closed Thursday and Friday for the Thanksgiving holiday. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I hope you have a really nice time with your families and friends. And the other thing is there is a toy drive at the Parks and Rec building. They have the tree already set up, and when I went in to bring something to put under it, there were lots of toys already there, and I think it was only the third day that they had started collecting, so that was wonderful. But that toy drive does end on December 14th, so that office is open, regular business hours, so you can drop a little gift, unwrapped gift under the tree for a child this season.
So where do people drop off for that?
It's at the Parks and Recreation Building in Town Center Park.
Town Center Park, okay.
Thanks.
All right. Very good, thank you. Councilor Lehan.
Yes, just to follow up on the Korean thing, I'm looking around the room. Probably the mayor and I are the only ones who were alive during the Korean War, but only just barely. I wanted to mention, and would have said so earlier, but the thing that impressed me at the time when we were doing the Korean Memorial, building that, doing the design, the planning, building, fundraising for it, was the involvement of the Korean community and the Korean government and Korean corporations. Most of the funding came from Korea. It was Hyundai Corporation and other big corporations, and the Korean Grocers Association in Portland, and all of these little groups and big groups, and the government itself. There's no question that it was, to the degree that it was forgotten over here, that it was a little bit of the known as the Forgotten War. It certainly was never forgotten in Korea, in South Korea. And they continue to come and pour their affection on these veterans at every opportunity. So that was a surprise to me, the amount of continuing dedication from the South Koreans. One other thing, I had, and I should have said this earlier when Mr. McCarty was with us upstairs, but I had an email from the director of the Parks Board that they would like to be, now that the master planning process has kind of wrapped up, they would like to be tasked with specifically with a couple of things, but mostly they would really like to be tasked with the safety issue and some of those issues that have been raised relative to Boone's Ferry Park, but also a few weeks ago with Memorial Park. But they didn't want to, so I just bring that up as an issue, but the Parks Board would like to be pulled into that discussion because they have ideas for the different parks, but particularly on that one as they move forward with after the master planning thing is done. Just a FYI.
Yeah, would seem like that might be a possibility.
Seems reasonable.
And, and then, I don't know, were you going to mention the 27th? Or,
I was going to, but
you were going
I'll
to.
scratch it off my list if you want to do it.
We can all do it. Do you want to talk about it?
Could do it, perhaps.
Yeah.
It's an important enough topic, because I don't see it on this list of.
I had it on my city managers, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, okay, then I'll do it.
Go for it.
On Tuesday, the 27th, after, not tomorrow, but a week from tomorrow, 7 o'clock in this chamber, the City of Wilsonville is holding a public hearing regarding the expansion potentials at the Aurora Airport, so that citizens both from Wilsonville and the surrounding area, Aurora, Marion, and Clackamas County residents can have an opportunity to express their concerns or ask their questions. So want to be sure that people know that they are invited, that they are welcome, whether they are citizens of Wilsonville or not. And it's at 7 o'clock a week from Tuesday, 27th of November. Anything else we need to say about that?
Well, only that I hope we hear from a variety of different perspectives and viewpoints for that. I think that the council needs to take a neutral position and be equally open to testimony from whichever advocacy or proponents or opposition or concerned group, you know, might come forward, and I'm hopeful that we'll hear from a variety of different ones. And we don't have real indication yet who may come, and we probably won't know until that evening, but it would be our intent to have a thoughtful, respectful opportunity for each person that feels so compelled to speak and to indicate their perspective, and hopefully to listen to other people's perspectives at the same time. And so we'll have to see how that goes. It's the only thing we'll be doing that night. We'll conduct it like a council meeting hearing, but it'll be on the basis of people, you know, signing up and filling out a slip, and then we'll just call them up in no particular order to hear what their perspectives are.
And I'm presuming it will be, like usual, a 3-minute,
Yes, I'm sure we'll need to
3-minute limit, so.
try to limit it, because it could easily get carried away otherwise.
You can establish, since it's kind of an informal public hearing, you can establish whatever, you just want to be consistent in how you
Right.
apply it.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And maybe 3 minutes is short, but I don't know.
It goes fast when you're on that side of the table, yeah.
Having testified many times in Salem, you can barely give your name and address, and half of the time is gone.
Well, it is, but if we do end up with a robust crowd, we have the potential to open up the doors at the back of the room and could, you know, open into the lobby if we need to, and we'll try to stay organized. It would be interesting if we do get that bigger crowd. We may not get that bigger crowd. We'll just have to see. I believe we're also inviting a couple different types of media to be here so that they can hear and report on what the hearing tone and arguments are, and we'll see how that goes.
And I would say that the reason we did this was out of concerns that have been expressed about people not having a process, because it's a little unusual for the city of Wilsonville, but there hasn't been a logical process for people to ask questions or express their concerns, or and that's mostly what I hear is questions, and there's no forum for them to ask those questions. So,
Yeah.
so we're trying to fill the gap process-wise to give people that opportunity.
Absolutely. Okay. Councilor Ackerball.
Well, I don't have much to report on, other than I can wish you all a happy Thanksgiving and say one thing that is on my thankful list is being part of this council and the time and the work that we've done together. I've really appreciated that from all of you. So, and Councilor Stevens talked about the toy drive. We also have the tree lighting next Wednesday on the 28th. And so that might be a perfect opportunity or time to bring something to the toy drive, because we will be there to do the tree lighting ceremony. So you could just get it all done at the same time.
So,
Exactly. I'm all about the multitask. Yeah.
so there'll be choirs and things performing, I think, and it's starting at 5:30-ish. Yeah. And then the tree lighting at 6 o'clock, and you can come earlier than that.
Yes.
And bring your gifts for the tree. Yeah, there'll be fun stuff.
What time is your solo?
1 in the morning.
It's a smaller crowd then, but.
Hopefully nobody, you know. Okay. Anything else? All right. Let us move forward then, if we can. If we could ask for the reading of the consent agenda, please.
Resolution number 2712, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville authorizing the city manager to execute a construction contract with R.L. Reimers Company for the Willamette River Water Treatment Plant Surge Tank Project.
Thank you. Resolution 2712. Is there a motion on consent?
Your Honor, I move that we approve Resolution 2712.
Thank you. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Consent agenda items are not debated or discussed unless there's a motion to remove them from consent, which has not been done. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0, bringing us to public hearing on Resolution 2715.
Resolution number 2715, which is a legislative hearing, a resolution authorizing a supplemental budget adjustment for fiscal year 2018-19.
So I will call to order a Wilsonville City Council public hearing on Resolution 2715. Ladies and gentlemen, council will take public testimony tonight in a public hearing format. Hearing will be conducted as follows. First, city staff will present their report. Then we will ask for testimony by proponents, opponents, and those neither in favor nor against the proposed resolution. When called, please come forward to the microphone, state your name and address, and make your statement. I request those providing testimony not repeat testimony already given. Simply indicating your agreement with certain prior testimony is entirely sufficient. Ms. Rodacker.
Thank you. Good evening. Kathy Rodacker, Finance Director. So this evening we have our second supplemental budget adjustment and is allowed by Oregon budget law. The council is able to amend the adopted budget for occurrence or condition that was not known at the time that the budget was put together. And back in January and February, we did not believe that the electric buses would get here this fiscal year, but lo and behold, everything aligned properly, and we're going to be able to take delivery of those in the spring. So this evening, we're asking for an addition of $1,535,105 be added to the transit expenditures, and to recognize the grant revenue that will be funding the project at $1,308,839, and the remaining cost to be funded with HB 2017 revenue. And that's all we have on this evening's.
Okay, and so as was noted during work session, the buses themselves are being paid for by an 85% grant from the Federal Transit Authority, and the charging equipment that goes with it is being paid for by a 90% federal grant from that same authority, which leaves Wilsonville's share of both projects at, do you have a number?
$266.
That's $226,000.
Yes, $266.
Any questions for Ms. Rodacker? All right. I have not received a single speaker card. Is there any member of the public that would like to speak on this public hearing with regard to Resolution 2715? This is your chance. I will close the public hearing and then ask council, what is your pleasure with regard to Resolution 2715?
Your Honor, I move to approve resolution number 2715.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded to approve Resolution 2715. Discussion?
I'll say something.
Councilor Stevens?
So I think it was either 2013 or 2014. I'd just gotten on the council maybe a year and a half. And SMART then was able to bring one of these buses down from, a Proterra bus, down from Seattle. And there was an invitation sent out, and I think you were there, Mayor, and I think I either had my husband or my son with me. It was my husband. You there? Okay, John was there. And so, and we took a ride around town, and these are beautiful buses. I mean, they are just top of the line. I think we're so fortunate to be able to acquire this ahead of schedule. And, not only the clean air, no exhaust, but also it will be just a wonderful feather in our transit cap. So, I think this is going to showcase, and I think this is something we should let the region know, that we are able to get these and have them in this small city of, 26,000 people, and have a transit system at this kind of level in terms of sustainability, and also just for our citizens here to be able to travel around town. And what you'll see is a really nice, really beautiful bus, very comfortable, quiet, just excellent. So I think this is a super thing that we're able to do.
Other discussion? I guess I would like to add that we know from day-to-day dialogue as well as our community survey that traffic is a significant concern in our community. We do what we can to deal with that within limited constraints. One of the things that we are doing is operating the SMART system, and that is to try to provide a genuine alternative to people to get around our community in some way other than driving their sole vehicle. This likely is going to be something that takes, a generation to really become more accepted. My generation, those of us that were alive during the Korean War, thank you.
Just barely.
Just barely.
Didn't grow up necessarily with public transit being in the front of our minds, but it is one of the few ways that we can really try to relieve congestion within our community. And by providing high quality equipment that is clean and enjoyable to ride and reliable, efficient service that I know our SMART crew is dedicated and committed to making happen, is one of the ways that we can start to try to bend that curve on traffic. And yes, it takes money. We've put a lot of investment in the last 27, 8, 9, whatever it is, years into SMART. But I think that given the traffic difficulties that have especially become so prevalent in the last, 2, 3 years, something like that, it's incumbent on us to do all that we can to try to provide alternative systems that people can use in our community. And I think that SMART does a great job at this, and I agree with Councilor Stevens that bringing this rolling stock into our community, it will be an inducement and enticement for people to use this system in a regular way that they might not otherwise do. So I'm very hopeful that this is a strong step. And just coincidentally, we are the first system in the region to be talking about having this. I think we'll be the first system in the region to actually have them on the ground and operating. And the fact that we do that while charging our businesses less fee than City of Portland TriMet does is a testament, I think, to our dedication, our efficiency, and how we're looking after our public funds. So even though they are significant investments, I think that they are, in fact, an appropriate and significant step forward for our system. Very excited to see them here and appreciate the work that our SMART folks have done to make that happen. So it's a great step, in my view. Any other comments? That being the case, I will call for a vote on the motion to approve Resolution 2715. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0. Bringing us to new business.
Resolution number 2714, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville authorizing South Metro Area Regional Transit, SMART, to purchase two 35-foot battery electric buses and charging equipment from Potera, Inc.
So maybe our comments were premature. We were just talking about the budget, not the actual motion. But it's all for the same purpose.
You can just say ditto. Yeah, exactly.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. My name is Dwight Brashear. I am the Transit Director for SMART, and joining me this evening is Scott Simonton. He is the Fleet Manager. And just like a anxious teenager, you have just given us money and we are asking now to spend it. And that's the exciting part for us. As you know, these grants that provide for these electric buses are very competitive in nature, and there are hundreds, of agencies across the country that are competing for these limited funds. And the year in 2017, when we were awarded the Lono grant, we were the only one in the state of Oregon to be chosen. And we weren't the only ones that applied, but we were diligent. We just wouldn't give up. It wasn't our first time applying, and we will continue to apply in the future. And I think the rollout and how well we do this, and I can tell you that especially Scott has spent a tremendous amount of time working with PGE and Proterra and CT, which is our consultant, to make sure that we've dotted our I's and crossed our T's. We've gone to conferences, we've spoken to colleagues in the industry, what went right, what went wrong. The beauty of it is they're very open, especially those that made mistakes. They told us, where they fell short. So this is an opportunity for, I think I heard one of the counselors talk about, this being really a showcase, and I believe it is for the city of Wilsonville. And we are going to do everything in our power to make sure that this thing is done right, done well, and done right the first time. We are asking this evening that you allow us to enter into an agreement for goods and services with Proterra Bus out of Los Angeles, California, where they'll be manufacturing the first two of 3 buses that we hope to bring in. Hopefully all 3 will be Proterra. We don't like to mix our manufacturers that way, but the next procurement will be through RFP, and so we're hoping that Proterra will be competitive as they were this time. And so Scott can go into more detail into what exactly we're expecting to get out of Proterra with this particular contract.
Yeah, this contract is for the first 2 35-foot Catalyst E2 buses. These are basically the same bus that Councilor Stevens mentioned we demoed a couple of years back. The 2 buses and the charging equipment, this does not cover the installation of the charging. That'll be a separate contract as we get a contractor selected for that. So this is the original 2 buses that we received the $1.45 million on Lono for. As we've said earlier, this came a little quicker than we anticipated. We got offered an earlier build slot and decided that it was in our best interest to go ahead and take that. So, yeah, 2 buses and 2 chargers.
Any questions, Council? Councilor Akable.
In our packet, at the conclusion of our packet, there was a brief line kind of talking about, there's some estimates on what the fuel and maintenance savings will be over time, but I'm sure that we'll be learning more as this becomes, reality. And I'm wondering, will we have some sort of update, or will that be in the monthly reports that we get through? I'm just curious, once that information becomes more available, how we can
Probably do something during the
more.
budget process.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be of interest to me, because I think there's many benefits, as a lot of the mayor has described and some of the other counselors have described. And I'm also interested in what the benefits will be for fuel savings too.
Yeah, back in May, the mayor and myself and Mark traveled to Washington, D.C., and I think it was Senator Merkley, wasn't it, who asked about the cost savings difference, and we sent him, his staff, that information, and it's similar to what we provided. Initial savings, we're looking at somewhere between $30,000 and $40,000 per bus annually, and it's certainly my expectation that it'll probably be somewhere closer to 40, if not higher than that, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, and I think just as a general business practice, when we do these sorts of projects, much as we did with the compressed natural gas back in 2011, we would go through one calendar year so that we can take into account all the different temperatures and things and do an in-depth analysis and present that to council.
Thank you.
I remember being back in Washington on that visit, and Mr. Brashears was in deep dialogue with the Transportation Department people and whatnot, and the first thing you know, we were trying to go to dinner, and he was on the phone back to Wilsonville because, they had to get this data lined up and had to get it just so, because so those trips where we go, help us position, and the work that was done was certainly very instrumental in enabling Wilsonville to be successful. Not on the first try. I mean, what was it, our third try or something rather?
It's a charm. It's that I may coin that, third time's a charm.
Yeah.
Take off like that.
So it's helpful to have people that are dedicated to digging out those last little nuggets and getting the last T crossed and I dotted, and I think that really is part of why you finally found success on that, so appreciate that kind of work.
Well, thank you for that, Mr. Mayor, and I must say that I've worked in a number of places, and I would be hard pressed to find a team that was more passionate, more caring, more dedicated than the team that we have at SMART, and which includes the fleet department. I'm just blown away every day at the enthusiasm and the commitment that they show. I'm probably the luckiest man in this room being able to lead a team like this. So.
Okay. We got a motion?
Jim, do we have a motion on the floor?
I was thinking we don't have a motion. All right. So, council, that was discussion with staff. Council, what is your pleasure with regard to Resolution 2714?
Your Honor, I move we approve resolution number 2714.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. We approve resolution, approve or adopt, are we?
We're going to approve it.
We're approving, okay. Approve resolution 2714. Council, any other comments or discussion you'd like to have?
Exciting.
All right, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion to approve resolution 2714, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes 5-0. Thank you much. Thank you, gentlemen.
Spend our money.
And our people's money. Bring us to resolution 2716.
Resolution number 2716, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville authorizing acquisition of real property.
The law firm of Jacobson, Bateshell, and Weigel. Are you guys coming up?
I've seen their commercials.
Personal injury.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Knapp, councilors. My name is Miranda Bateshell, Planning Manager with the City of Wilsonville.
And I'm Zach Weigel, Capital Projects Engineering Manager.
Well, I'll kick it off just quickly. We've talked about this item in work session before. This is a piece of property that Ms. Bateshell and Mr. Weigel have been interested in acquiring in conjunction with the town center master plan and also the transportation system plan. The idea is to purchase this property in order to potentially locate the I-5 bridge landing on this location. To that end, I was charged with drafting a purchase and sale agreement and negotiating with the owners to see if we could purchase the property. We had an appraisal done. We offered the appraised value, and the owners accepted our offer. So we have a purchase and sale agreement that's been put together. It has 4 due diligence items, or 3 due diligence items contained in it, which means the purchase and sale agreement will be contingent on us being satisfied with all of those due diligence items. And we have 90 days to make that determination. The first due diligence item was an environmental site assessment. That's been done, and the results of that were no finding of any environmental issues and no recommendation for a phase 2 after the phase 1. The second was a survey. It's been determined by the engineering department that because the property was recently platted, a survey is not necessary. And then the third item is really 2 items. There are 2 sets of restrictive covenants against this particular piece of parcel. One of them is a broader restrictive covenant that dates back many years, and that covers a lot or most of the town center properties that will be included in the town center master plan. And then there is one unique to 5 parcels. This is one of those 5 parcels, and that restrictive covenant is actually controlled by the sellers of the property. So we've been negotiating with them on lifting some or all of those restrictions. We're still in negotiation on that issue. We're still in negotiations on both of the restrictive covenant issues. So during the next 90 days, we'll be working on that. And if we get the restriction removed completely, then the sale agreement would be clear to go. If we don't get them removed completely and there's some restrictions that still remain, we would come back to the city council and determine whether the council still wish to move forward with the purchase, given whatever restrictions might remain on the property. With that, I'll turn it over to the team who can talk a little bit more about the reasoning behind the desire to purchase the property, and then open it up to questions for you.
Thank you, Ms. Jacobson. Again, my name is Miranda Bateshell, Planning Manager with the city. And as all of you are aware, this parcel came to our attention. It's been on the market for a while now. Through the Town Center Planning Project, one of the projects that's in our TSP, in our Transportation System Plan, is this bike and pedestrian bridge that would cross over I-5 and create a connection between Smart Central Station and the east side of Wilsonville, and particularly the town center area, which is home to a lot of commercial uses and jobs. And so through that process, that project, being in the TSP and in our pedestrian and connectivity plan, rose to the attention of folks in that project and the community through the course of the conversations around this plan. And it was a project that they identified as a priority. It then became a topic of conversation about what happens at that bridge landing when it comes into town center, and how do we use that potential project to really act as a gateway into the town center and a gateway into the city. It'll be something iconic that you'll see even coming down I-5, which then connected a lot to the tourism conversations. And so through the town center planning process, this really became elevated. And in all of the outreach that we did with the community, it was prioritized as a very important project for the city in terms of connectivity and also in terms of the town center plan. It tested well when we went out in our surveys. It was something that was that the community really prioritized. So as we were going through the town center planning process and the corner parcel on Town Center Loop West, the other available parcel that was in the area where the bridge landing might occur sold and is now being constructed, we brought this parcel to the attention of the council to discuss what the opportunities are in terms of the eastern landing for that bridge and the potential gateway into town center that would serve with this plan. So Zach Weigel and I brought that to your attention to let you know, and that's kind of how the background in terms of this parcel coming to our attention and bringing it to you this evening to see if we can reach an agreement through the purchase and sale agreement with the sellers.
And I'll just add a little bit more background on the project itself. We've been talking about this project for a while, and we've had a lot of action from the council over the last 3 or 4 years on this project. We had started with the last round of the MTIP money through Metro, applying for a grant for this project to do design work, and we were successful in getting that grant, $1.55 million. To start design of this project. And that really started that as Miranda had talked about, the conversation about the need for this, identifying the parcel for the bridge landing. And then subsequently last year, Nancy Krushauer and I gave you an overview of a funding analysis that we did for the bridge project. During that we had identified the cost at that time of about $10.8 million for the project. There's another $1.55 million that would come off that for the grant that we got. And then most recently, we brought forward to you the opportunity to transfer those funds or do a grant exchange or fund exchange with the Kinsman Road Extension Project, where we were able to defederalize that grant money as long, and in agreement with Metro, we would use those local dollars that we got back from Kinsman Extension Project to design this project. So that's kind of the actions that have happened recently for this bridge project.
Okay.
I should probably add one thing just for the record. The purchase price that we offered is $1,512,000.
Council, questions for staff? Councilor Starr.
When you said the project, does the project of $10,500,000 include the price of the land or not?
It included the price of the land that was assumed just for the bridge. So there was a narrow strip for the bridge landing itself. Buying the property in whole is in addition to that cost. So I would say a portion of that is included in that $10.8 million.
But we're going to have to buy the land if we're going to put the bridge down, so we got to have to spend the money. So overall, it's going to be around $12 million.
Well, yeah, around that, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, but the use of the property is for landing, and whatever's left over could be used for other things. It's not all, we wouldn't need to use the entire property for just the bridge landing.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Stevens.
Okay, so that generated another question, but the first question is, was that the appraisal price?
Yes, that was the appraisal price.
Perfect.
It was about $230,000, as I recall, less than the asking price.
Okay, so we offered the appraisal price, and that's
Yeah,
what they took?
we offered the appraisal
Okay.
price and they accepted. Yeah, that was accepted.
Thanks. So what do you envision for that surrounding area, like landscaping, or is there going to be room for maybe bike racks, or, has that been thought out about, is it turf area?
So that is a process that we have not embarked upon yet. What I know from the town center planning process and what the community has really gravitated around is having some type of community gathering space, but also having this be a gateway. So really bringing people into the town center and moving them into kind of the central area of the town center, including getting to Town Center Park and eventually to Memorial Park as part of that Green Links open space that was envisioned through the town center plan. Correct. So we don't know the exact design. We don't know all the amenities that are necessarily going to be there. What I can say that's come out of the process is that it wouldn't be a large park. It wouldn't replicate something like Town Center Park because we already have a Town Center Park. We already have a great space where kids can play and there's a water feature. This instead would have some type of landing presence. It might have some benches, it might have some bike racks, it might serve as kind of a place where somebody could come across, get a great picture, rest for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It will also connect to the cycle track feature that has become a prominent feature of the town center plan as well. And so you'd be able to maintain a separated track from vehicular traffic. There would be a separate track that would take folks through like a promenade, from the bridge through a promenade, down to Main Street and into Town Center Park, and then along Courtside, and then further later connect down on Town Center. I'm pointing in the wrong direction. Town Center Loop East and down into Memorial Park. And so that is, we don't know the exact design of that yet. I'm sure, like all places in Wilsonville, when we go through that planning stage, there'll be a lot of attention to design, a lot of attention to landscaping. There's been a lot of desire for environmental stewardship. It's one of the 6 goals, if you remember, from the town center visioning process. And so I imagine some low impact design and stormwater features, maybe even integrating some other unique and more creative features in it. So that is yet to come, because that's the design kind of happens at a later phase. But that's the grounding in terms of what the community has told us that they envision for this space.
Okay.
I would just add that through the town center plan, there's, they're looking at adding more of a street grid network in this area, and part of the property could be used for that as well.
Okay, thanks. So the other comment I wanted to make, though, is what you were talking about the restrictive covenants and how important it would be so that we can do what we want with that property.
Correct. And when the restrictive covenants were written, there was no idea that a bridge would go there. So you can understand why. And right now, the way the restrictive covenants are written, a bridge couldn't go there. So there's, like I said, there's 2 sets. I've already talked to the declarant on the one set, who is the owner of the parcel that we're buying, and they are willing to lift the restrictive covenants, at least so far, to the extent to allow for a public use of that space for a bridge and associated use. We're still negotiating to see if we can get the restrictive covenants reduced further, because if for any reason this project doesn't go forward, then we would need to have the ability to sell the property to recover our funds. And so having as few restrictions on the parcel as possible is important. So that's the one thing I was saying, we have 90 days to do. And if they aren't completely released, then we would come back here. Well, we'll come back here anyway in order to finalize the sale agreement. And then there's, like I said, there's a second set of restrictions that's even older, and those covenants also do not contemplate a bridge. So that one we're still working on. It's a much larger group and not the owner of the property. So that one is a little bit more time consuming to get accomplished, and we don't have a definitive answer on any portion of that one yet, but we are working on it. So again, what you're approving tonight is to enter into the purchase and sale agreement that has those contingencies, and then we've got 90 days to either say they're satisfied or they're not, and if they're not, then we can walk away, or we can ask to extend that time period, or we can accept it with the remaining contingencies. That would be your call.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That's what I wanted to make sure, that we could, if they hold fast on keeping these conditions that just don't make it easy for us, that we can step back from the deal.
Right.
Right, okay.
Are these covenants left over from the days when we had a lake in the middle? How old are these old covenants?
I don't know when there was a lake in the middle, but that would be
There was
pretty
never
cool.
a lake in the middle. That was that was the early plan, which went by the wayside. But,
Ended up in Tualatin.
it ended up in
The first
Tualatin.
the first set certainly could be. They were originally drafted in the 80s, I believe. The second set is much more recent.
Technically, that's still the plan that we have for
With the
town
lake?
center, which, yes, it identifies a lake or open space at the center. I like to think we got the latter, and that maybe we learned at some point that was a better option. But technically, that is the town center plan, which currently guides our existing town center, which is in fact why we're undergoing this process, right, to do a revisioning for the town center.
Yeah, because you remember, we broke, the first one that we broke when I was first on council was, what they called splitting the apple.
Yes.
Because it wasn't there was just supposed to be town center loop and no road through the middle. And then we put that second one through. Anyway,
I actually have that.
It went by the by there.
Yes, I actually have that town center plan drawing in my office right now, the original with the lake. If anyone wants to look at it, you can come by my office. And interestingly enough, it actually shows a bridge across I-5 in almost the exact location. So,
Okay. Well, so why wasn't that in the plan?
well, it didn't make it into the CCNRs.
Oh, I see.
But I don't know how much of that, yeah.
I don't have anything else.
So the sequence of events here is a challenge, I guess I would say. We don't have a town center plan adopted yet, and updated, right? And yet, if we wait till that's done, we'll probably lose the opportunity to participate in this vision because everybody else will have become much more aware of the overall concept of what is going on in town center and what is coming probably to town center. And that will make property more difficult and more expensive to acquire. So we're early on the cusp of this, trying to preserve the option to move forward, assuming that we can make everything work out. We don't know if everything's going to work out. We don't know what the economy is going to do. We don't know whether the private sector is going to buy into this plan if we adopt it in an immediate and robust way in the near time frame. So we're trying to balance these different factors, and we're trying to figure out how to preserve these options and see if we can nudge this toward a better vision for Wilsonville. This comes back around to the transportation question, and the whole thing about a bike bridge across I-5 is troubling to some people. It doesn't seem intuitive, like it's worth doing, and yet our Smart Transit Center at the end of the west line is on the west side of the freeway, and our town center is on the east side of the freeway. And unless we figure out ways to tie our community together, then we're going to have a less robust community in many ways than we could otherwise have. So this town center visioning, as I have followed it, seems to be citizens in our community trying to find a vision for our town center that is different than the automobile, get off the freeway, drive into the town center, go to the big box store and go back out and get into your car kind of an approach. As traffic becomes more congested, I think that studies across the country have shown people are gravitating toward more of these opportunities where they can shop and recreate and socialize, in many ways within an area where they don't have to get into the car and drive. So in some ways, we're out on the edge of trying to figure out this new dynamic. And I have hopes for it, but I don't have certainties about how this is going to work. So the question that I think deserves to be asked is, do we have flexibility to use this proposed property in different ways to adjust and adapt to that idea as it might go forward? And so the restrictions I find concerning for that reason, because we don't know how things are going to go, and we don't know the timing, and we don't know exactly really the direction, how much flexibility do we have? So I just want to be confident that we can make mid-course corrections if we feel that we need to. If we end up buying the property and closing the sale, then do we still have options, or are we so restricted that we can only do the one vision of the bridge? And if that doesn't work out, then we're kind of stuck, is really the crux of my question.
Wow, that's a long question.
That's what we're facing here,
So I would say those are all really good points, and that's why we've got the due diligence condition in there on the restrictive covenants, because it is concerning. Now they're set, they were designed to make and the idea behind those restrictive covenants is this is a commercial development area, and the owners of the property wanted a certain look and feel to the commercial development that would go there. But anytime you have that extra layer of regulations on it, and that's besides the city regulations and state regulations, and you've got the owner regulations, and they want to be able to look at the design and the use and those kinds of things. Like I said, with the set of, the more recent set of restrictions that is under the control of the owner of the property we're looking at buying, they have agreed that they would lift those for the purpose of a bridge, but that doesn't get to the question of what happens if we can't put the bridge there. So that piece we're still working on, and I can't tell you tonight with any certainty how far we'll get with that, but we are going to continue to negotiate and speak with them. And once we have a definitive answer, we will have a document that says these are the restrictions that either, well, I proposed lifting all of the restrictions, and the response I got to that was, no, we don't want to do that, because if the city ends up selling it to a third party, we want to have some control over what that other use would be. So where we stand right now is we're still in discussions on that. And as I said, on the other piece, that's a piece Miranda has, oh, excuse me. Miranda has been working on. We're still working with the declarant on that to get in touch with all of the various property owners. So right now, we don't even have the restriction on the bridge lifted under that set, but we expect, based on support for the town center plan, that we will get it. So that's what we're going to do over the next 90 days. And we'll come back to you then and let you know how many restrictions still exist, if any. And I suspect there will be some, and then you will have the opportunity to decide. You know, it's going to be a business risk. So
Personally, I think it's critical that staff emphasize to the seller that for us to have a reason to buy this, we have to be confident that it can be folded into the vision for the town center plan. Absent that, I don't see a compelling reason that we move forward now on this. And if they're unwilling to buy into that vision to the extent that they give the city authority to move into that vision, and however that property might be used within that vision, then it seems to me that we've got a challenge that I'm not sure we can overcome. And I just want to be clear. I mean, I don't know how the council feels, but you know, that we need to be firm with the seller that, hey, we have got to be able to implement the town center vision, or this isn't, what are we doing if we can't? I mean, you can argue that we still need a link across the freeway, but I'm not sure that this location at this price is it, unless it's part of that town center vision. I mean, I feel strongly that way.
And we'll negotiate with that, understanding that in mind. And at the end of the day, we'll do the best we can. We'll come back to you, and it will be your call.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I don't have any questions, but this is like discussion, yeah.
Yeah, this is like discussion.
I think we've heard the message between the discussion upstairs and here tonight, so.
All right. So if there's no other questions for staff or perspective from staff, then I'm open to a motion on Resolution 2716.
Your Honor, I move that we approve resolution number 2716.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, we approve Resolution 2716. Would the council like discussion or comments?
I'll discuss.
Councilor Akable.
With my involvement with the Town Center Task Force, I would concur that I have heard again and again that people feel this bridge is an important component of the overall plan. Not just on the task force alone, but the polls and the feedback and the surveys that have gone out there. It's ranked very high and people are very interested in it. With all of that being said, I feel like I have similar mindset to the mayor in saying this is critical that the restrictions come through so that, the vision can be completed. And right now, we know enough that sometimes things change and timelines change and planning is fluid. And so the flexibility to be able to work in that kind of environment is very important.
Doesn't matter to me. You go ahead.
Counselor Stevens then, okay.
Well, from my understanding from a work session we had with you, Miranda, is that I recall a lot of people saying, the task force and people talking about the town center plan, but that the bridge wasn't something that staff even talked about, but people kept going back to it, that it was emphasized and emphasized, and to the point where you just had to bring it up in terms of a priority because of the messages you were hearing. And I know that's from the public outreach. I also had a conversation, I'll just personalize this a little bit, with a friend of mine who kind of frustrates me because she won't let her teenage daughter, goes to Wilsonville High School, go through the intersection of the freeway. And I always just assumed it was about maybe somebody, coming in and off the freeway. You have transient people coming off the freeway, that she was worried about somebody putting it. And it isn't about that. She says, a little bit, but it's about the traffic. She says cars going through that freeway, either walking or on a bike, aren't looking for pedestrians. And she doesn't want her kid hit. And I think there's a lot of parents that probably feel that way, that we have kids coming from the west side and won't go to the library, won't go to Jamba Juice, or aren't allowed to, don't go to the high school, don't go down to town center because their parents are a little bit nervous about that very busy intersection. And so, to me, regardless of whether or not we build the town center project, I think this bridge is needed to get people safely through the freeway, and especially our youth, and maybe even our seniors. I know we have a lot of bicyclists that go through, but they can handle going through, under that bridge. You see the cyclists on the weekend coming through in little groups, and people, adults, they take it into their own. But if we could have youth be able to cross that freeway safely, where their parents feel comfortable with doing it, and I know it's expensive. I know it is, but if we don't build those opportunities, if we don't build those connections, then we have gridlock. We have cars lining up because you have one parent driving one kid to the soccer game, to where they need to go, to the play. So I'm not sure I feel as strongly as others do about how this is all linked towards the success of the town center project. I think the bridge stands alone as something we need to connect because we have those two things. The river, can't get to it because of so many issues with that, and people want that, and linking our city that is split by, federal freeway. And in order to keep our city connected and all our citizens as a whole, we need more than just Beckman Road and Ellingson and Wilsonville Road to get across. And not everybody goes by car. And we have to do it safely. So I think that bridge is important. I know it's way out there and I know it's expensive, but I think it's important.
Thank you. Councilor Lehan.
Yes, I also think this is an important bike pedestrian connection and east-west connection, not just between Villebois and Town Center, where you could practically come down Barber and go straight into Town Center, but also with the rest of the east side, because you could from there go, once Town Center is, that new circulation plan is there, you'd be able to cut right through to the library or cut right through to Town Center Park or Marassi, et cetera. But, so I think it's a very important circulation piece, but that's not really what this motion is. This is about buying this property. And I would just say that I really don't have the level of heartburn everyone else does about that. I think that right now they have already lifted up the restrictions for the bridge. So we can do what we need to for the bridge. Is that correct?
One set of restrictive covenants have been lifted. The second one is still, still working on that. So we've got to get that done.
But it is likely
It's likely, but it's not done yet.
So our concern is that if for some reason we didn't do the bridge, then we need to turn around and sell the property. This has not been a problem for us in the past, and I've been involved in a number of land deals, both acquisition and sale. And we have always been able to sell it and for at least as much as we purchased it for. And and it's not unreasonable that in my mind, that town center would have perhaps not the level of CC&Rs that were there at the time of the lake, because I don't know all the particulars of those. But some level of control, I don't think that has to be so scary. They are very supportive of the bridge, and if for some reason that fell through, they have to look at, it needs to be keeping with the town center plan or their town center plan or their vision. That I can see where they would not want us to turn around and sell it to yet another third party who does something completely out of the, because all the restrictions are gone and they have no say. I can see why they would be concerned about that. Now, I think we can finesse this so that it reduces their anxiety about that outcome. But I feel fine going into this, particularly with this 90 days thing. But I would not say no to this because even if we were not able to lift 100% of the restrictions, that's not my bottom line. That there are reasonable restrictions or reasonable whatever for it to be a productive part of town center if the bridge doesn't work. I don't see that as beyond the pale for that property owner to, for the town center. We're talking about Capital, no? Who are we talking about? Capital Realty. Yeah, we're talking about Capital Realty. That's not an unreasonable concern of Capital Realty. But I think that it is a good deal for us to go ahead and pursue this, try to get the best deal we can. And sometimes property, almost always, when we have bought property in the past, there's been something less than ideal, or, opportunities pop up, and if we don't move on them, we don't have them. And we wouldn't have Marassi. That one came up out of the blue without a plan. When we purchased that, we tied up that land for the school district, then ended up flipping that. We bought the post office over there where Walgreens is to preserve the ability for that development to go forward, and sold that. So we have either facilitated development or stepped out and bought land ahead of time when it was an opportunity. The trailer park that is now Boone's Ferry is another one. That suddenly it's available for sale. We have to make a fast decision. Do we want more river frontage? We also bought that little orchard next to the railroad, same thing. It just pops up on a auction, on a land auction. So I'm not worried about it. I think we need to do this and it will work out. Tim will
Councilor
worry.
Starr?
Tim can worry.
Well, I probably have a different perspective than some of the counselors here, but I'm just trying to think of all the properties in Wilsonville. None come to mind that 15 years ago are the same price that they are right now, except this one. And to me, that screams, watch out. I don't think, when we first took up this issue, part of why I came into it was, hey, if it's property, to Councilor Lehan's point, generally speaking, you can buy it and you can see it appreciate. I haven't seen that here. And with the restrictions that are on it, it really makes me nervous to the point where I just don't think it's worth it. And there are two things to consider. Number one is the bridge, and number two is the property itself. From a bridge perspective, all the people that I've talked to on the east side of town, none of them have said they want it, not one. On the west side of town, almost all the people that I've talked to said they don't want it. I have asked them, is it worth, and I'm trying to estimate, but I'm going to say give or take $1,550 to $1,850 per household, and I got a flat out absolutely not. And with all the trouble of where this land is and what's going on, and for the fact that most everybody that I've talked to says the bridge is not an idea, we will never use it, my kids won't use it. If you want to do something, maybe you can do it along with Beckman, the overpass there. But I'm looking at this and I just can't support it based on all the feedback that I've gotten. And just from a business perspective, I don't think it's a very good idea. So.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else have anything they want to say? If not, I will call for the vote, I guess, on the motion to approve Resolution 2716. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 4-1. Bringing us to city manager business. Thank you, staff.
Thank you. With the Thanksgiving theme. And as I look over to my right and I see that Mr. Starr is down to 2 meetings by my count. So I want to say I'm thankful for the collegial atmosphere and the fact that you can discuss issues like this. It never becomes personal. Everybody votes their conscience and you move on to the next issue. To me, that's the model of how local government should work. So that's a credit to you. And I'm also mindful that there's a young lady in the back, Ms. Krauschauer. This is her last meeting. And I somewhat coaxed her to come over here from Oregon City, where I worked with her in my past. And so maybe I can coax her to come up to the dais, and if you have anything you'd like to say for your last meeting, you certainly can. But I just want to say that I've appreciated working with Nancy. She came into the CD department. She's a whirling dervish, constant motion, project to project, meeting to meeting. She's represented us quite capably at the regional and state level. I will miss you greatly, and I know your staff will as well. And I just wanted to publicly thank you for your 6 years of service here in Wilsonville.
Go by fast.
You're welcome.
It does.
Yes, well, it's been a pleasure working for this council and previous council before this one. I've found that the leadership in Wilsonville from its beginning has been amazingly sophisticated and brave. There have been a few battles fought and some relationships healed after some of the
little strong things the city has done, but the outcome has been fantastic for this community. And I'm just proud to have been able to spend the last 6 years of my career working for the city of Wilsonville, and for great council, great city manager. Thank you, Brian. And of course, you know what? I really owe it all to my staff. You have the community development staff is just the best, and it's gotten even better since, you know, as time goes by, people move on, and I'm feeling so confident about the community development staff at this point. I'm really very comfortable leaving. So anyway, thank you guys for your great leadership, and it's been really fun working for a very progressive, sophisticated city council and mayor.
Well, thank you for all your work. I know that you have done your utmost to move your department forward. Lots of challenges, lots of interesting things to do. I think all of us are taken by how Wilsonville just seems to be more engaged in more different things than most communities our size, and we're still a growing community. Lots of positive things here, lots of ideas floating around. You've contributed to a lot of those, so it's really great to have a professional such as you have spent the time and effort you've spent in our community. So thank you very much for that.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
All right. Any legal business?
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving. Happy
Sounds good. We do have an Urban Renewal Agency meeting. Are people ready to carry forward into that, or you want a break? Or? Okay, I will call us adjourned at 8:53 on City Council, and we can convene Urban Renewal Agency meeting, which we'll call to order Wilsonville Urban Renewal Agency meeting for November 19th at 8:53 p.m. and request a roll call.
Board Member Stevens?
Here.
Board Member Starr?
Here.
Board Member Ackerval?
Here.
Board Member Lehan?
Here.
Board Chair Knapp?
Here. Thank you one and all for attending our Urban Renewal Agency meeting. Is there any citizen input? I don't have any speaker cards. If there's anyone who would like to speak at this point, I see none. We will move.
You're up against it versus the last urban renewal meeting, because I got to tell you, that one went pretty fast, so.
No pressure.
All right. Brings us to new business, Urban Renewal Agency Resolution 291.
URA Resolution Number 291, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville Urban Renewal Agency authorizing acquisition of real property.
Staff report was submitted into the record during the council meeting and during work session.
Okay, and this was the one we just had extended discussion on at the council level, right?
Correct.
Board, are there any questions or comments with regard to this resolution?
I feel like a lot of our discussion from the council meeting applies here, so does it carry over in some way?
Into the record?
It carries over in every way.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good answer.
It's the same issue, so.
Yeah. Good.
Is there a motion on Resolution 291?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve URA Resolution number 291.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, we approve Resolution 291. Discussion? Had enough discussion? I'll call for the vote then. All in favor of the motion to approve Resolution 291, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Yeah, those opposed?
Nay.
Thank you. Motion passes 4-1. Thank you very much. Anything else for Urban Renewal Agency? I'll call us adjourned at 8:55. That was 2 minutes.